Hello and welcome along to my YouTube channel, Analista della Liga, with me, Terry Gibson. And before I head off to Madrid this weekend, doing one of my usual weekend previews. First of all, it's been a decent week for Spanish clubs, the Liga clubs in European football. Excellent win for Real Madrid. What performance from Fede Valverde. Comes as a bit of a surprise to people that don't watch Real Madrid on a regular basis, that Fede Valverde is pretty good, you know. So excellent win for Real Madrid. I didn't expect that, I have to be honest. Like most people, I thought that it was a good time for Man City to play against Real Madrid with the players missing for our beloved team. But no, it was a pleasant surprise to see Real Madrid played so well, and for Fede Valverde to take the headlines. A player that probably should score more goals. He's only got 2 in La Liga this season, and there he was smashing 3 goals in the first half, and what goals they were. Barcelona just about salvaged the draw away to Newcastle, but I predict they get the job done at home in the second leg. Be a different game completely. Atletico Madrid against Spurs. It was as a Spurs ex-player and as a Spurs fan, that first 15-20 minutes was a tough watch, I have to be honest. But Atleti in pole position to go through in the second leg. I'm reluctant. I think with Man City as well, they'll believe they've got a chance of a comeback. It's a tall order. Spurs probably don't believe they've got a comeback in them. So Atleti, I expect to go through in that, and then we might have the possibility of probably, if Barcelona win, Atleti win, it will be Atleti Barca in the next round. So it's been a decent week in the Champions League. Celta Vigo got work to do after their draw at home against Lyon. Endrick, funny enough, on loan from Real Madrid, getting a late equaliser. And Betis losing 1-0 at Panathinaikos to a late penalty, but I think they'll get the job done at home in the second leg. And congratulations to Rayo Vallecano. I've looked around the rest of the teams in that. Fiorentina should be good. Mainz should be good. AZ Alkmaar would be one of the teams to watch out for. Crystal Palace, of course, but they drew at home to Larnaca. Rayo, if they can ease their relegation issues, which they are doing slowly but surely, it'd be fun to watch them go a long way in the European Conference League. So, Spanish representation, not doing too bad this week. 11 games to go in La Liga, so it's all happening there. It's all building up to a nice crescendo. And we start the prospects off with what I think is going to be a really interesting weekend of football. Some teams on the verge of getting away from any relegation issues whatsoever. There's still plenty of 6-pointers, still plenty of teams involved in the relegation issue. 1 or 2 surprises, of course. And we've still got a title race, so 4 points between Barcelona and Real Madrid at the top. Atleti and Villarreal are on sharing the points and are comfortably ahead of Real Betis, who are looking at 5th place. And the way that the Champions League and the way the Europa League teams and the Spanish representation in Europe compared to the other countries, Spain do have a chance of 5 teams in the Champions League next year. So Betis, it's important that they hang on to 5th place, which is going to be tough. 1 or 2 teams are breathing down their necks, but it does look like the top 4 is nailed on. And we start Friday evening with Alaves against one of those teams in the top 4, Villarreal. So Alaves on 27th points, 16th position in the league. Quique Sanchez-Flores, first home game as the manager after taking over from Eduardo Caldet. They were unfortunate last week to lose away from home against Valencia 3-2. Late drama in that game. Alaves look decent. I think Alaves stay up, and I think Alaves get the win in this game. It'd be interesting to see the motivation. As I said, Villarreal on 54 points. They're now 11 clear of Betis in 5th. So that's why I think the top 4 is nailed on. Which order they finish in, that's going to be the exciting part for the rest of the season with 11 games to go. But I think this one, the motivation for Alaves is going to be right up there. They're used to playing on a Friday night. They're in front of their own supporters. Villarreal are a better team. But I'm going to go for that motivation, new manager bounce, and Quique Sanchez-Flores to have an impact. I'm actually going to go for a home win, so that might surprise a few people. So I'm going to go for Alaves to beat Villarreal on Friday night. On Saturday, we go straight into Girona against Athletic Club. 2 teams with different ambitions, yet there's only 4 points between them. Girona still on the fringes of the relegation issues, 31 points, so they're 6 points clear at the moment. But if Mallorca win this weekend, any of these teams on 31 points lose, it's back to a 3-point gap. So Girona against Athletic Club at home. Athletic now can focus purely. They're in 10th position, 35 points. There is a big possibility. There's 4 or 5 clubs now that think they have a chance of qualifying for Europe. The latest one is Getafe, how they've done recently. Rocketed up the table. They're a level on points with Athletic Club. But Bordeaux didn't want to hear any talk about European football. But Athletic Club certainly do. So this is a really tough one to call. It's a good matchup, this one. Girona are hit and miss. I thought they're quite fortunate last week to pick up the 1 point to get away from home against Levante, despite being the better team in the second half when Ola Sagasti got sent off for Levante in the 54th minute, I think it was. From then on, the game changed. Girona got back in it. They got the equaliser. They could have won it in the last minute as well. So this is a really tough one to call. As I say, it's a good matchup. I think Girona can be a really good team. I'm actually going to go for a home win in this one. I think Athletic, I'm not sure if the situation we got in Nico Williams, whether he's available, it's hit and miss at the moment. We seem to be assessing that, or they do assessing it on a weekly basis. If he's missing, it can be at times a lacklustre Athletic Club away from home. So I'm going to go for another home win in this one. I'm going to go for Girona to take all 3 points, and it might just completely erase any relegation fears. So then we go to a game I'm working on for the English-speaking world feed at the weekend. Atletico Madrid against Getafe. So Simeone up against Bordeaux, and on the slippiest pitch in European football, I will have you believe. Making excuses for Spurs players, of course. But it is. I saw a clip on social media from, obviously by a Barcelona fan, in the first leg of a Copa del Rey semi-final, with a whole clip of people, Barcelona players, slipping and sliding all over the place. So it is an issue. The Atleti players have moaned about the pitch as well, but I wasn't sure what their complaints were. Anyway, there's going to be plenty of people on their backsides in this game because Atleti are playing Getafe. Getafe like a tackle. Getafe are in wonderful form. They really are. I mean, fabulous win last week against Betis. They beat Real Madrid the game before. They fancy their chances going to Atletico play in between playing 2 Champions League games. Getafe will be competitive, but I'm going to go for another home win. It's not going to be an easy game for Atletico. We're going to see loads of changes, but their second string is still formidable. So, we saw Nico Gonzalez get a couple of goals last week. Again, he's coming off the bench during the week as well. Soloff was on the bench against Spurs. So their second choice team, Lenormand was back in the team. So someone like Jimenez could play. Pubil could go back to centre back, and Nahuel Molina coming up right back. World Cup winner. So they've got a really good second team as well, Atletico Madrid. So I'm just going to go for Atleti to shade it. But it's going to be a 1-0, a 2-1, something like that. Or it might be completely wrong. It might be something like a 3-2. That's the type of team Atleti are at the moment. They're conceding goals. Oblak with a mistake in midweek. But I'm going to go for the home victory. Oviedo against Valencia, which is a really, really important one. Both teams, Valencia, I've moved 7 clear of relegation now. But as I say, if they lose this week, Mallorca wins, someone else wins. If Elche were to get something at Real Madrid, then the picture changes. So Valencia they're easing their issues, relegation issues. Decent run of form lately, particularly at home. The 3-2 win last week against Alaves. And Oviedo getting an excellent point against Espanyol. So they are well adrift, Oviedo. It's now or never. This is a must-win for Oviedo. It's a must-not get beat by Valencia. So I'm going to go for the draw in this one. I think something like a 1-1. And Oviedo are decent. They're not useless. They're not rubbish. They're just coming up short in the majority of games they play. I think they get relegated now. But if they were to lose this one, then it's probably is curtains for them. So I think Valencia wouldn't be too disappointed with a point. Of course, they're 1 or 3, but I think if they took a point from this game and if results go in their favour, then we do see a Valencia that are not looking towards Europe. Although it's a possibility, but I think they're still looking over their shoulder downwards rather than upwards. And then the late game on Saturday night, which I'm pleasure of working on, is Real Madrid against Elche. Similar to Atleti, similar to Barcelona probably, the teams that are playing in the Champions League with 2 games, with a La Liga game in between. There will be changes for Real Madrid. They're talking about Jude Bellingham and Mbappe being fit for the second leg, which means they have to get some playing time in this one. So it'd be interesting to see if they're on the bench. If they are, they will be called upon 15-20 minutes, get some playing time under the belt, ready for the second leg against Man City. There will be changes for Real Madrid. Elche haven't won. It's 10 without a win now. Similar to exactly the same as Espanyol. So I think they got 4 points from the last 10 games. So he's looking at 26 points. They had 22 points before the Christmas break. Picked up 4 points since. They've slipped to 17th. They need something, and the disappointing aspect for Elche is they're playing well. They got beat last week 2-1 at Villarreal. All their games are close. They play well, but they just can't win a game. Do I expect them to win this game? No, I don't. I expect them to play well. They were really good against Real Madrid in the home match this season. I expect Real Madrid to win. It's not going to be comfortable, but I'm going with something like a 2-0 or 2-1 for Real Madrid, and that should be them. See that Real Madrid put some pressure on Barcelona, who play on Sunday. So if Real Madrid 4 points behind, get the win, it puts them a point behind Barcelona. Barcelona's game coming up on the Sunday. That comes after Barcelona play after Mallorca against Espanyol. I just talked about Elche's run. Espanyol's is exactly the same. I think they'd be really disappointed they only got a draw against Oviedo at home last week. But the game's coming thick and fast for Espanyol. They can't win a game. That was one game at home to Oviedo, bottom club in La Liga. And Manolo Gonzalez must have felt right, tonight's our night. And it wasn't. It was another draw. So them going to Mallorca, and Mallorca's an interesting aspect. I mean, Di Michelis has taken over as manager. They showed a lot of patience with the previous manager, Arrasate. I think they win this game. It's going to be incredible. If Mallorca, they're in the relegation zone. They've got a good group of players. They're underachieving. They have a striker who's second highest goal scorer in La Liga with 18 goals. In Vedat Marichi's 5 off of Kylian Mbappe. He's not going to catch Mbappe because Mbappe's probably going to get 30 plus. But to have a player that gets that many goals and you're in the relegation zone with 11 games to go is really unusual. He got a couple of goals last week in the 2-2 draw at Osasuna, which is a decent result for Di Michelis, but they were 2-0 up with literally minutes remaining. So I think there were signs last week Mallorca will play better and different than under Di Michelis. They have a goal scorer. I think he'll score in this game, and I'm taking Mallorca to win. Hence the reason I'm saying if they get the 3 points, they go up to 28. It might drop Elche with 26 into the relegation zone. If teams that think they're clear on 31 and 32 don't get a result this week, it's back in the melting pot. So I'm going to go for a Mallorca home win. Barcelona, Sevilla. Sevilla are difficult to break down. Aker Adams is playing better. Malpe is going to be fit this weekend as well. They do have an attacking threat, but their strength has come from being really well coached, to be honest, with a team that's not brimful of superstars anymore. They really, Almeida has got them really working hard. They know what they're doing. The manager's still suspended. 20,000 more people, I think, going to be in the camp now this weekend as well. I think they're opening up behind the goal, which means that for the game against Newcastle, it's going to be more atmospheric. It'll be atmospheric in this game as well on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go for a 2 or 3-0 for Barcelona in this one. Sevilla will have the odd attack, might if they can break the offside trap. Alexis Sanchez going back to play against Barcelona as well in the camp now. But I think Barcelona have too much. They weren't great against Newcastle midweek. If anything, they were poor. They was fortunate not to get the penalty because it was a penalty, but they were fortunate to get away with a draw. They get the job done, in my opinion, in the second leg. But at home, they've been immaculate this season. I expect that to continue with a Barcelona victory in this one. Then we have Betis against Celta, 2 teams involved in the Europa League. So no advantage for either team, no disadvantage for either team. Betis, a disappointing result last week to lose at Getafe. Not just the result, but the way they played. Disappointing result, but they were unfortunate against Panathinaikos, losing by the penalty. As I said, Celta got the home draw against Lyon. Both, Betis hanging on to that 5th place. So you're looking at there's a 3-point gap between these two teams. 5th place, as I say, might have a Champions League position. And Celta believe they can do that. But I think I like Betis more at home than away this season. And I think that after the disappointing La Liga performance last week and result against Getafe, I think they're going to bounce back with a win in this one. So I'm going to go for a home win, Betis versus Celta. And a really interesting game, the last game on Sunday evening, Real Sociedad at home to Osasuna. Both teams are doing well lately, so that's why I think this one will be a good game to watch, good match-up. Rivalry between the two teams and the two sets of supporters, similar part of the world in Spain. So it's a tough one to call, but I'm going to go for a Real Sociedad home victory. Copa del Rey just got in the way a little bit of the La Liga form, then a couple of difficult fixtures for Real Sociedad in terms of who they were facing. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, after playing and doing well to get through to the Copa del Rey final. So they've just been slipped up a little bit in La Liga. But they're on those 35 points. They'll be looking at not maybe the 5th spot, but they'll be looking like Athletic Club. Other teams that fancy their chances of European spots, Celta Vigo, Osasuna maybe as well. You know, a point behind Real Sociedad. They'll be thinking a Europa League position, a Conference League position. I'm going to go for home advantage in this one. All guns blazing for Real Sociedad. And I'm going to go for the home victory just. That leaves me then Monday night, Rayo against Levante. A genuine 6-pointer, to be honest. Rayo, one of those teams on 31 points. Levante, they're in trouble. Second from bottom, 22 points, 4 adrift, so it's not impossible. And signs recently that they're getting their act together. Unlucky not to get all 3 points last week. It's a possibility with Rayo playing on Thursday night in the European Conference League that there might be some team changes from Inigo Perez. Second leg coming up at home against Samsun Spur. They are 3-1 up, so that's a boost to their confidence. I'm going to go for a draw in this one. I'm going to go for a team that's had a free week, another week's training. Manager's getting his act together now, picking a regular starting 11, and I think Levante can get a draw. Whether that's enough to keep them in the division with 10 games to go, I think it does. So I think I'm going to go for a score draw in this one. So that's me heading out to. That's me done for this weekend's preview. Heading out to Madrid to do work on the Atletico against Getafe and Real Madrid against Elche. Both games in Madrid. I'll be in a studio on the outskirts of Madrid, 5 minutes walk from the Atletico Madrid stadium. So, wish me luck, enjoy the weekend's action, and I promise next time I won't be moaning as much about Spurs and the slippy pitch at the Metropolitano. Catch us next week. Speak to you soon. Thanks for you looking in. Don't forget to subscribe, and I appreciate the comments. Speak soon.